So, welcome everyone. It's lovely to see all the faces and everyone here today. A sweet new year, Shana Tova to all, celebrating the Jewish New Year. And, well, maybe we can just begin with a bell, since we can't do the real thing. So welcome everyone to this Sunday class, sponsored by the Insight Meditation Community of Washington, IMCW, and the Center for Mindful Living, which is a very vibrant community within IMCW, and many here are regular participants and members of the Center for Mindful Living. So for those who are new or here for the first time, just a particularly warm welcome to you. And please let us know if you want to just put the information in the chat, and know you're warmly welcomed, and as is everyone here. The deepest wish is that all of us can show up fully as we are, in all of our different expressions of diversity, and race and ethnicity and sexual orientation, gender identity, abilities, and just knowing that everyone is held in compassion in the heart of loving kindness. And so welcome to everyone. Metta. So what we do you have as a format pretty much is we begin with a meditation, and then I'll share a talk, a reflection, and then we'll have some time for sharing together, whatever's on our hearts, whatever's present for us. And then we'll finish with a shorter meditation at the end, and have some time for announcements. So just invite everyone to just take your time to find a posture that's comfortable and relaxed for the next minute or so. So letting the shoulders relax, letting the chest be open so you can breathe easily. If you're comfortable, letting the eyes close and letting the attention come inward, dropping out of the thinking mode, and letting yourself be here, be present with whatever is here for you right now. So just feeling your body, the weight of your body pressing down on your thighs, on your buttocks, your feet, contact with the floor. Just opening to the sensations that are present right now. Some deeper breaths can help us arrive and settle. So if that's helpful, just taking a nice deep in-breath And a long, slow out breath, releasing, if you can, anything you might be holding, any tightness, any tension, as you breathe out. Feel the breath moving in and out of the body. And opening to what's present for you right now, letting your awareness come into the body and into the mind, the heart. Just notice with kindness what you're aware of right now. Just meet what's here with care, with acceptance. With kindness. If anything is present that's difficult or challenging right now, it can be helpful just to maybe put a hand on your heart. You could put your other hand on your belly if you like, just as a way of expressing a care for your own experience, for the challenges, for the difficulties. Just holding it with kindness. You might connect with this field of all of us here together in our different spaces. All of us just here to open, show up for our experience, to perhaps live in a less habitual way by meeting our experience with care and kindness, by opening to the truth, taking refuge in the Dharma, taking refuge in how things are, how they're showing up right now. sharing again Martha Postlethwaite's poem Clearing, inviting us into presence, into the space that comes when we pause. It says, do not try to save the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is yours alone to sing falls into your open, cupped hands and you recognize and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to this world so worthy of rescue. So if the image is a helpful one of just creating a space, each of us creating our space, and all of us in a collective space together of intention, of caring, a space in the dense forest of our lives, in the busyness and the activities, just putting those aside for a time so that we can really pay attention with kindness, with care to what's here right now, what's calling for attention. And in that silence, in the stillness, in the space, may come some clarity, some insight, some awareness out of the mystery, out of the stillness. That will support us as we go back into the world so worthy of rescue, into our lives. You might invite an attitude of kindness, of acceptance, curiosity to what's present right now. How is it to meet this, whatever this is for you, with kindness, with that quality of caring, friendliness, and with acceptance, acknowledging that what's here is what's here, comes lawfully out of earlier causes and conditions, And whatever is arising is here and can be met, if we choose to, with care and with kindness and with acceptance. Let your breathing help hold your experience here right now. Just breathing into what's here, making space. If something feels tight, contracted, just making space so that can come and express itself. And then when it's ready, it can pass. And if it's helpful, you might let the breath be an anchor for you, kind of a place to rest your awareness. It's grounding you here in this moment. With your breath as a home base or an anchor, you can just be aware of the sensations of breathing in and breathing out. If other experiences arise, you can just let them, notice them in the background, coming and going. And if the mind goes off into thinking, as it may do on occasion, sometimes often, do with kindness, just gently, kindly invite the attention back. So invite an attitude of befriending whatever is present, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, joyful, or difficult, painful. Just invite the quality of befriending, caring, concern, that we'd have someone we're close to, a friend, befriending ourselves, befriending our experience. Can this moment be a moment of peace, a moment of well-being? If you meet here without judgment, without resistance, then it can express itself, can come and go without us adding suffering to the experience. Dorothy Hunt asks, does peace require an absence from your boss, your spouse, yourself? Do you think peace will come some other place than here, some other time than now? Peace is this moment, without judgment. That's all. This moment in the heart space, where everything that is welcome. Feeling yourself held in this field of shared kindness and awareness. Choosing where we place our attention, just choosing to come back if we get caught up in stories or plans or memories, daydreams, just gently and kindly coming back here, this moment, this body, this breath. this moment, this breath, here, now. Appreciating yourself for the time you've taken to come home, the support for everyone else who's here. Appreciating too being held in Sangha, community. The Buddha said Sangha is all of the spiritual practice. All of our practice is community. This is Muhyiddin ibn al-Arabi. There was a time I would reject those. There was a time I would reject those who were not of my faith. But now my heart has grown capable of taking on all forms. It is a pasture for gazelles, an abbey for monks, a table for the Torah, Kaaba for the pilgrim. My religion is love. Whichever the route love's caravan shall take, that shall be the path of my faith. Whichever the route love's caravan shall take, that shall be the path of my faith. Thank you, everyone, for your presence and your practice, for being here today. Maybe just take a minute or two to stretch in whatever way will be comfortable to you, if you stand or sit. I won't try to channel Emily today. We'll just do our own stretches. And So there's a line from Leonard Cohen's song. He says, "The heart has got to open in a fundamental way." And then he goes on, "Democracy is coming to the USA." A song written, I think, over 30 years ago. And but the expression of, the heart needing to open in a fundamental way is one that really speaks to me and resonates, particularly in the times that we're living in. For thousands of years, the kind of the dominant mode of expressing needs on a political level has, to a very large extent, been kind of dominated by, fairly oppressive structures and systems, that marginalized, hold parts of the population, oppressed groups and women, and difference in many different ways. And in the Buddhist understanding, when there's conflict in the world, misunderstandings and deep divisions, it's actually coming from our own hearts. It's not just something that's happening. We're bringing the qualities of anger and fear into those relationships, and those kind of structures that that perpetuate, being together, that actually continue the suffering, that keep the suffering going. And I've been thinking and reflecting on the times that we're living in, and I'm very much taken by the expression of Dr. Martin Luther King at the March on Washington almost 60 years ago, where he spoke of the fierce urgency of now, the fierce urgency of now, expressing the immediate and undeniable need for fundamental change to address the centuries-old history of oppression of African Americans in the United States. That expression, the fierce urgency of now, I think is a really powerful one, and it spoke very much to the urgency of those times, and it very much speaks to me today. This image, this metaphor of the fierce urgency of now. We face different challenges today, but including some of the same challenges that Dr. King was addressing that haven't been fully addressed by any means over the last 60 years, though some important changes have been made. But we could look at the challenges we face with climate change, the the urgency, that image, the fierce urgency of now, really speaks to me of the urgency in the face of the change in the Earth's climate that is more extreme than anything we've experienced in thousands of years. That sense that we have to act collectively, and that in itself seems such an existential challenge to us, and yet it's not easy, as most of us know, to find the way of engaging that that is wise, that's helpful, that's compassionate, that doesn't recreate or reproduce the conflicts and the aversion and the other afflictive qualities that just keep, in a sense, keep the suffering going. And we can look beyond that, the climate, at just the political realities in our world. We could look at the fears around the future of democracy in America and worldwide. And here, I think we say we're facing a crisis of truth, with millions identifying with false narratives about elections and about science, and with some significant proportion of people being willing to contemplate force and violence to get to support their beliefs. So engaging, as we know probably in our own experience, engaging in conversations, in discussions, in the attempt to bring about solutions that benefit everybody, which is at the heart of certainly the Buddhist teachings and many other wise practices, wise approaches. To engage with those, these challenging realities, the difficult realities, without just bringing our own energy of conflict, of anger, and aversion, and the ways in which we perpetuate suffering rather than healing it or alleviating it. There are ways in which, and all of this could be kind of unpacked, and many different ways of pointing to the attempts to restrict voting rights of minorities, poor and working class people, and limitations on women's reproductive rights, millions of women, pushing back and targeting the LGBT people and community. All of so many examples of ways in which there's obvious suffering, collective suffering, that needs to be addressed, that we need to collectively address, that we don't seem to be able to find ways of having those conversations, those dialogues, that dialogue in ways that support healing and support peace, well-being, happiness, freedom. And so these are just some examples of what we're all facing together collectively as a country, but also in the world, with people who I'm sure are aware that in the recent decade or so, the movement towards democracy has kind of gone back the other way, and there's more. We're seeing an advance of authoritarian ideas and movements and societies. So all of this, asks, begs the question: what, for me, how can our practice, how can these teachings help us engage, respond in ways that don't perpetuate the suffering, that don't just throw more fuel on the fire of conflict, of division, of separation, but actually move us towards greater healing, greater collective well-being? And as I reflect on it, I feel that the as well as other wise spiritual teachings, ethical teachings, provide a great support for us as we engage in the world, as we respond to the challenges we face collectively. And as the teachings kind of point to, our tendency is, when, I say particularly now in the face of the urgency and all of these crises that we're facing, it's easy for us to feel overwhelmed, that there are so many urgent needs. And we have our own lives, don't we? We have our families and our health and our finances and all the things that that we need to take care of, that can at times also be feeling like, oh, that's one more thing I have to deal with and I have to hold. And so a very habitual response is to check out, to shut down, and just focus on what's immediately calling for attention. To feel like, oh, I can't deal with all of this. And that's when we feel, when we're under stress, we're under pressure. It's a natural kind of evolutionary response to kind of go into that fight or flight mode, to go into defending ourselves. And when we do, one of the things that happens is we become less available for connection with others, less available for, more spacious ways of responding. And so, the urgency itself can create a sense of, oh, I have too much to do. I can't deal with all this. There's too many things. And we kind of go into a kind of tunnel vision, or just way we can react is to get engaged, but to turn the focus outward into blaming others, into anger, into hatred, into kind of creating us and them, so we're against the people who we see as responsible for causing the harm. So we get into that, they're the bad people. And both of these kinds of responses, the shutting down, kind of the defensive shutting down, or the projection of blame outward, don't lead to our own happiness and well-being or that of others. Because when we shut down, we suffer because, as Jung said, what we resist persists. The crises, the urgency, the suffering continue, but we feel disconnected, possibly guilty for what we should be doing. So that's not a helpful response, and yet it's an understandable one. It's one that we can habitually get into. And then the other response, when we externalize the blame, we create separation, us and them. we disconnect ourselves from others, and that's really the kind of the deepest truth of of suffering. That suffering is rooted in creating separation, in clinging and holding on, and in that way separating ourselves from others, from ourselves, from life. So the way we typically, habitually respond can actually be ways of perpetuating suffering, of not moving towards healing, but moving towards more conflict or more suffering. I think what I feel very hopeful and optimistic about is that these, maybe optimistic isn't the best word, but because we never know how things are going to unfold, but it's a recognition that that the Buddha's teachings and practices, the Dharma, provides all of the tools we need to respond to our own suffering in the face of what's going on in our own lives and in the larger world, and to process everything that's coming up. The teachings provide a reliable and trustworthy refuge for us in these challenging times. So a support in holding, in metabolizing, in processing all that the world is asking us to hold and to respond to in these times. So to really hold all of our own pain and to hold it with kindness and meet it with kindness and make space for it as we do in our practice, and to engage wisely and compassionately in the world, to help find solutions that benefit everyone, rather than a kind of a you win, I lose, zero-sum kind of approach that's been so common throughout history. That the teachings, the practices of acceptance and awareness, of just being able to be with our experience without, throwing it out into the world with blame, with anger, with hatred. Being able to meet the difficulties by making them into our practice rather than pushing them away or avoiding them. So there are particular teachings of the Dharma, I think, that are particularly helpful in these times. But I'd say that really all of the Buddha's teachings provide powerful support for us in dealing with the challenges of our time. You could just think of the teachings of the Four Noble Truths, how, we suffer when we cling. And so to be able to really, in a moment-to-moment way, look at how we're responding when we hear about somebody, or somebody we disagree with says things we don't like, to notice the arising of, reactivity, the clinging that helps to, fuel more suffering. Because if we respond to that in a reactive way, we can, we just kind of create and recreate that cycle of suffering, that just perpetuates the suffering. So being able to see how we can experience the difficult, the painful mind states, but there's a path out of suffering, the path to end suffering in our lives, the willingness, to be with our experience as a doorway, as a gateway to letting go, to freedom, to being able to engage with others and in the world with compassion, with loving kindness, without creating without creating further separation, further division. And the Buddha's heart practices, the practices of loving kindness and compassion, joy and equanimity, in cultivating these boundless, states of heart and mind, where we can consciously nurture compassion for those suffering, loving kindness for all beings, including those who are causing suffering, that we don't put anyone out of our hearts, that we keep our hearts open, and the practice of equanimity that allows us to stay balanced in the face of the all that's coming up within us and all that's happening in the world, that we can meet life's joys and sorrows with an equal mind, with an even mind, and we can open to joy. If in the face of happiness we can respond, feel joy in happiness. When we cultivate these heart practices, others, like gratitude, generosity, forgiveness, we train our heart to really see everyone as a suffering being, just like us, only different in that they have different conditions, maybe have made different choices, but that everyone is deserving of our kindness and compassion. And this is a training of the heart and the mind that the Buddha gave 2,500 years ago. That is, that it is boundless. It doesn't have limitations. There isn't a limit on the amount of compassion that we can cultivate, or the number of people we can hold in our loving kindness or in our compassion. The Tibetan Buddhist sage Milarepa said, "Long accustomed to contemplating compassion, I've forgotten all difference between myself and others." Long accustomed to contemplating compassion, I've forgotten all difference between myself and others. Probably most of us, perhaps all of us, are not quite at that place yet in our practice of not being able to distinguish between ourselves, our own interests, and that of others. But it is a training. Then we can. There isn't a limit to how much our heart can open to include everyone. To see that in these times when there's so much division, it's so painful to experience the separation, between one large group in society and another, between people in our own families, of how that, conversations can't really be had because they get too heated, and we're holding on so tightly to our views, to our beliefs, the way we think things should be. One of the most, for me, most inspiring say archetypes really in the Buddhist tradition is that of the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva is a being, sattva, of awakening, Bodhi, like the Buddha, Bodhi, an awakening being. The Bodhisattva is a being, and it's any of us who consciously commit to their own awakening, to our own awakening, and the awakening of all beings. To see, to consciously incline our mind, not just to our own freedom, which would be kind of a narrow, it's important that that our freedom is inexorably linked with the freedom of all others, of all other beings. So to consciously commit to waking up, and waking up for the benefit of all beings. This is the path of the Bodhisattva, committed to healing the suffering of the world. There's a beautiful long poem by the Indian Buddhist monk of the 8th century, Shantideva, who expresses the aspiration, the wish, the intention. May I become at all times, both now and forever, a protector of those without protection, a guide for those who've lost their way, a ship for those with oceans to cross, a sanctuary for those in danger, a lamp for those without light, a place of refuge for those who lack shelter, and a servant to all in need for as long as space endures, and for as long as living beings remain. Until then, may I too abide to dispel the misery of the world. Until then, may I too abide, stay in this realm of suffering, to dispel the misery of the world. And that and the vow of the Bodhisattva can seem kind of lofty, saving all beings. One expression of the Bodhisattva vow begins one: sentient beings are numberless, I vow to save them all. Delusion is endless, I vow to end it. It can seem like a very, very big, lofty, something that we could never do. But I'm inspired by people in our own lives and in our own time who can who have really embodied the aspiration, the intention of the Bodhisattva intention, and not just in the Buddhist tradition. We have obviously, the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, an expression of a Bodhisattva who, is committed to peace and to well-being of all beings, and think of Thich Nhat Hanh, who died recently, of his work in engaged Buddhism to help bring the wisdom and the compassion of the Buddha's teachings into the world, into engagement. And historically Buddhism has often been, work on opening my own heart and kind of separating ourselves somewhat from the suffering of the world, or taking ourselves out of that. But there are also bodhisattvas in other, other traditions, and who certainly haven't seen themselves as Buddhists, but who have committed themselves to freedom, for all beings. I think of Nelson Mandela in his 7 by 9 foot prison cell on Robben Island, who was able to turn his anger into compassion and forgiveness. And think of Rosa Parks sitting on the bus, refusing to give up her seat, not because for our own gain, but to help gain freedom and equality for African Americans and for everyone, so everyone would live freely, could live freely. Think of more current Greta Thunberg, who went on strike at age 15 outside the Swedish parliament and really galvanized a movement to confront the climate catastrophe that we're all facing. So many other bodhisattvas, and the when we can all be bodhisattvas, we can all commit ourselves. We have that possibility, each one of us. Jack Cornfield talks about 3 qualities of a bodhisattva. He says, first, the bodhisattva turns towards the difficulties and shines the light of understanding on them. So this is really the heart of our practice. When difficulties arise, we turn towards them. So we have to work on ourselves to work with our own, with our own pain, our own suffering. Secondly, they work to find peace within themselves by engaging in a path of training, training in letting go of afflictive states like anger and greed and hatred, and developing positive ones like love, compassion, peace, forgiveness. So, and then they envision actions and a path of liberation for themselves, their community, and the world. And so this envisioning possibilities, we see that in Nelson Mandela and Rosa Parks and Greta Thunberg and Malala Yousafzai, advocated for education and was shot by the Taliban. John Lewis being beaten unconscious on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, but never giving up on non-violence and continuing to work throughout his life to create the beloved community. These bodhisattvas, both ancient and in our own times, had all the difficulties and obstacles that we have. They remind and inspire us that we can live a beautiful life, that we can act with, as Rilke said in one of his letters to a young poet, we can act with beauty and courage. No matter, what is facing us, we can, through our practice, we can cultivate that the qualities of the bodhisattva, of really the quality of intention, of intending that our actions, our work, our thoughts contribute to freeing people, everyone from suffering, freeing all beings from suffering. So just to finish up, maybe just take a couple of minutes and invite you to, turn the spotlight inward to your own experience right now. What is calling for kindness, for acceptance right now? Is there anything that can be met with kindness, with care? and turning to your experience and everything around us in the world. Is there an aspiration that you have? A wish, an intention to help heal the suffering of the world, help beings find freedom from suffering? What is something that you might do, that you might commit to doing to help in healing our world, help healing the suffering of our world? Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your practice. Um, let's take a few minutes to share, if you'd like to share anything that comes up for you. If you'd like to share it in the chat, in the comments, if you'd like to share it in the group, just raise a hand. What's present for you right now?
You don't mind, Hugh, I'll just share quickly. What a profound talk you gave. And what I wanted to share is, in my heart, for the first time, I heard The Clearing, the poem by Martha Postlewaite, in a different way than I had before, as the full cycle of what you were talking about, meaning creating that space and that clearing. And she starts out by saying, don't do anything grandiose, and create that clearing that allows you to accept things as they are, accept people, even difficult ones who may be doing things that are wrong or unjust, even have compassion for them as they are. And a lot of people criticize Buddhism, some people, as, well, that's what it's all about. Let's just get calm and accept everything. But the way it ends, of course, the poem, The Clearing, is only then can you give yourself to this world so worthy of rescue, which leads right into engaged Buddhism, as you talked about. So I just had never really thought of the poem that way. I focused on the clearing, which of course is our practice, and it gets us there, but it gets us to engagement in a beautiful way. And that talk was just quite a tour de force, and I wanted to thank you. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, I think that it's that pathway from opening fully to our experience and the willingness to be with and accept what's present, how the opening of our heart leads naturally, in a sense inexorably, towards engagement with others, engaging with the suffering of the world, because we come to see more and more clearly that the suffering isn't isn't just a personal, thing. It isn't just me. We see that when the heart opens, we open to everything, and we open to what naturally arises is the in the face of suffering, compassion arises, the wish to alleviate the suffering of others, and our own suffering. So thank you for that sharing, Bob. Thank you so much. And Peter.
Thank you. Thank you, Hugh, for that beautiful teaching today. Wow, so rich. And when you asked about what we can share with the world, what came to mind was just a simple one-word answer: smile. And lately, whether I'm in a Safeway, or I'm walking down the towpath, or I'm in a doctor's office, or even when I'm alone in my own apartment, smiling, it's a circular, giving out love. The love comes back, and to see people light up, even the people you'd least expect to light up. I mean, we can share our gifts in such simple ways, and at least that's one that I'm finding very so easy to do, and an interesting practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful observation, how much a smile can transform people's experience. Just walking down the path near our home, and somebody we pass by smiles, and just how it affects our hearts, and so what an act of kindness and generosity it is to offer that, and I think it's a beautiful thing to share. Just that invitation. If everyone went through their day and through their life with a smile, I think it would both transform their own experience and the experience of many others as well. So thank you for sharing that, Peter. Thank you.
Hisham had his hand up first.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I just want to refer to your powerful comment about those who really believe in universal love and believe in the universal compassion, and how much they really keep going. And I'm in a position now that I'm leading some initiative that focus on just not to think about the other as enemy, but the other as people who really disagree with. And they also have families, and they also have fears, and they also have like aspiration. But the biggest suffering I have is the self-doubt. And that self-doubt, it comes all from the group psychology and the mental model that the group create, that we are right and they are wrong. If you don't follow our path, you are with them. And it's unbelievable, decisive way of looking at the world. And, I had a very deep disagreement of one, like my lawyer actually, who comes from different perspective. And I kept thinking about compassion with the most heated moment. And I kept saying, she's coming from complete different perspective, but she coming from perspective that she thinks right. She thinks she's right. It's not like I'm wrong and she's right. And so I don't know how to get that strength to keep going and keep the compassion, keep of love without having a singer like ours. because you have like you really have. I mean, I had really self-doubt of what I'm doing, deep self-doubt. It's like, oh my God, everybody against me, like I'm against the world. So should I keep going? How can I keep going? Where to bring the strength? So I really appreciate what you said today, Hugh, and any comments on that? How to keep going and keep open your arm to others and not call them enemy, but call them somebody you disagree with, because they have a delusion and they're not wrong or right, they're different, right? So try to change, help them. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you so much, Hisham. Yeah, no, it's so important. I think as you noted, the Sangha coming back to community and being with others who are committed to, as you are, to bringing compassion and kindness and wisdom into the world, in a way that's non-clinging, but that is a powerful support in the face of the suffering that's coming up around self-doubt, kind of a sense of reinforcing and helping you see and know that you're not alone, that we're all sharing this. We're sharing the pain of the difficulty of what's going on, and yeah, and how to hold the pain, the difficulty yourself. Just the practices that we cultivate here and in other places to meet your experience with kindness, with recognizing that that everything is impermanent, to be able to see where we do get, we can get hooked on a certain view, and to be able to kind of invite a softening around that. Bringing in self-compassion is a powerful support for us, when we're working with difficulties like that, like what you're speaking about, of just inviting kindness, compassion to your experience, recognizing that this is suffering. Much more can be said, but I'll just leave it there, since we're coming a little close to the end now. Maybe just hear from Bettina, and then we'll have a short sit to finish. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a wonderful talk, and I feel like today was a tipping point. A lot of the practice and the path and everything has just sort of been leading to upward movement. And with fall, I've done some legwork about different ways to help and be more of, not necessarily a huge activist, because that's never been my forte. I've sort of helped behind the lines, but your talk today has really motivated me to follow up on getting more involved, particularly with helping animals. So I really want to thank you for that. And it was inspirational, like, because I come up with a lot of excuses, like, oh, well, where do I put my extra time? Who do I try to help? Will it make a difference? Go in circles and then never do anything. So I feel like there's been a breakthrough thanks to your talk today. So thank you.
Thank you, Bettina. Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that. Very inspiring. And, I think one of the things that can get in our way is we think we have to, we should be doing everything, or we think we should be doing more than we're doing. And if we can just be kind to ourselves and recognize, that we're all, that we're all facing, pressures, and to be able to do what we can to kind of put in our grain of sand, and contribute um, to an opening of hearts and of an alleviation of suffering. If we can do that in whatever the the manifestation of that is, whatever the expression of it is to you, what is it that I can do that can help alleviate suffering, help end suffering? So let's just have a couple of minutes, quiet minutes together, and then we'll have some announcements to finish off. So just bringing awareness to what's present for you right now, what's present in the body and the heart, the mind. Can this be met? This tightness, or this grief, this joy, can it be met with acceptance, with kindness? Just feeling our connection here together today. Maybe sending a wish out to everyone who's here, just wishing for their well-being. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May you live with ease and with kindness. And letting our awareness go out into the wider world of all the suffering, of all the difficulties and the pain. Be sending out a wish of kindness wherever your mind takes you, wherever your imagination, your thoughts take you right now. Just wishing this being well. May you be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere awaken to their true nature and be free. Peace is this moment without judgment, this moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. So thank you everyone for your presence, for your kindness. And we're gonna finish with a few announcements. I just like to mention a couple of things that that I have coming up. A retreat in a few weeks with Rebecca teaching with me in person, just over the border in Pennsylvania, over the Maryland-Pennsylvania border, in Waynesboro, I think, the 14th to the 16th of October. And then thank you for sharing, Dan, the Foundations of Mindfulness class, the Buddha's Teachings of Freedom, which it begins on October 18th. So hope you can join us for these central teachings of the Buddha on freeing the heart, of being present, opening to our experience. And just to mention, as we do each week, that there's no cost for the class. Everyone's welcome to attend. You're invited, if you're able to and inclined, to make a donation. It's in the tradition of dana or generosity, the way the Buddha's teachings have come down to us through 2,500 years. So thank you for your support, and the ways you can do that are in the link that that Dan shared. Thank you.